It started with a phone call. Just past midnight, the silence of Elmridge Road was broken by a single ring. Then another. Then nothing. Mara was already awake, not because she expected anything, but because she hadn't slept in days. The house had been different lately. She sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the hallway. Dark. Still. Too still. The breeze pushed open the bedroom door. She didn't remember leaving the window open. Slowly she stood, barefoot. Every step across the wooden floor echoed like footsteps behind her. But she didn't turn around. Mara walked into the hallway. Paused. She could smell something faint, like burnt matches and old paper. The scent pulled her toward the stairs. Down below, the living room lamp was on. She never left it on. And right there, at the bottom of the stairs, lay an old black rotary phone, the kind her grandmother used to have. It was ringing. Mara didn't move. The phone rang once more, then fell silent. She stood frozen at the top of the stairs, her eyes locked on the object. It hadn't been there yesterday, or ever. The rotary dial was cracked, the cord curled like a dying vine. Dustless, fresh. Her breath caught in her throat. She took one step down, then another. Wood creaked softly under her heel. The walls seemed to exhale, as if the house had been holding its breath. And now, it was watching. Halfway down the stairs, the hallway light flickered. A soft hiss came from the kitchen. The refrigerator. Or was it? Whispering. Mara stopped. She tried to remember the layout of the house. How many doors were on the first floor? 4? Number 5. One of them was closed. She never closed that door. Slowly, she reached the bottom step. The black phone sat just inches away, coiled like something alive. She bent down. Her fingers hovered over the receiver. She didn't want to touch it, but she knew. If she left it there, it would ring again. Louder. The moment her skin brushed the plastic, a chill surged through her hand. She picked it up. No dial tone, no breathing. Just a low, humming sound, deep, mechanical, and wrong. Then a voice, faint, scratchy, childlike. "Don't go into the study, Mara." Click. Mara dropped the receiver. It hit the floor with a soft clack, louder than it should have been. The hum was gone. Silence pressed against her eardrums like static waiting to come alive. She turned slowly toward the study door. It was still shut, still silent. But now, she could hear breathing, not hers. Something behind the door inhaled deeply, long and ragged, like lungs filled with dust and age. She stepped back. Her foot nudged the phone again. It rang. Once. Then silence. Mara didn't look down. She didn't want to see if the receiver had returned to its cradle on its own. Instead, she walked toward the kitchen. Light flickered as she passed under the hallway lamp, the bulb buzzing in protest. She needed answers. She needed coffee. The kitchen felt normal, familiar. Except the windows were pitch black, not just dark with night, but empty, like something had taken the world outside and erased it. She flicked the switch for the overhead light. Nothing. She opened the fridge. Cold light spilled across the tiles. A relief. Inside, her groceries, milk, eggs, the half-eaten sandwich from yesterday. She reached for the coffee jar, paused. It wasn't her brand. The label read, Roanoke Beans, since 1691. The logo looked hand-drawn. She didn't buy this. She had never even heard of it. She turned the jar slowly, revealing a message burned into the back of the label. Not printed, but scorched. "Drink to remember." Her hand trembled. Suddenly, the breathing behind the study door grew louder. And it wasn't alone. Mara backed away from the kitchen counter, clutching the strange coffee jar. The breathing had changed. No longer just slow and heavy. Now it was layered. Multiple patterns. Different rhythms. Like a group exhaling in unison behind that one door. She set the jar down. The label pulsed faintly, as if reacting to the air around it. She couldn't stay still. She needed to see. She stepped out into the hallway. The house felt narrower now. The shadows seemed to lean in, curious. The study door was still shut, old, wooden, with brass trim around the handle. The air near it was colder, thicker. Mara reached out, not to open the door, just to touch it. But the moment her fingers hovered an inch away, knock. From the inside, a single deliberate knock. She froze. Her mind raced through logic, denial, reason. None of it fit. Knock. Knock. Slower this time. More certain. Then, a voice. Not from behind the door, but from directly behind her. Software female. Familiar. "Why did you come back?" Mara spun around. No one. Empty hallway. Empty kitchen. The old phone still on the floor. The voice again, this time closer, as if whispered directly into her ear. "You left us here, Mara. You locked the door. But we never left." She ran. Up the stairs, heart pounding, eyes wide. Floorboards cracked louder now, as if echoing her fear back at her. She didn't stop until she was in her room. Door slammed shut, locked. The windows were still open. But outside wasn't the neighborhood. It was trees. Endless trees, black and frozen. The street, the sidewalk, the houses, all gone. Only forest. And somewhere in that darkness, something moved. She closed the curtains, but the darkness outside didn't care. It seeped in through the edges, through the glass, through the walls. Mara pressed her back against the bedroom door, trying to make sense of anything. The house wasn't acting strange. It was revealing itself, and she was no longer sure it had ever been just a house. A creak, not from downstairs this time, from the attic, directly above her. She didn't even know this place had an attic. Her breathing became shallow. She moved toward the closet, looking for something, anything that could protect her. Old shoes, coats, a broken lamp, then a box, unlabeled, taped shut, covered in dust that didn't match the rest of the room. She pulled it out, set it on the floor, peeled back the tape. Inside were photographs, dozens, black and white. People she didn't recognize, houses she'd never seen. Then, a photo of this house. Saint. The ladder creaked open, one wooden segment at a time. Mara stood frozen in the dark hallway, eyes locked on the square of shadow in the ceiling. A soft thump. Something landed on the top rung. Then another. It was climbing down. She backed into her room, felt for the door frame, slammed the door shut. Again. This time she didn't lock it. What was the point? The footsteps on the attic ladder continued, slow and deliberate. Then they stopped. She strained to hear. Silence. Her ears rang. She reached for the nightstand drawer and pulled out the flashlight. The weak beam flickered across the room, landing on the mirror. Her reflection was gone. Not missing, replaced. Something else was looking at her from the glass. Same posture, same size, same clothes. but not her. It smiled. Mara stumbled backward. The mirror shattered on its own. A sharp, whistling sound filled the room, high-pitched and hollow, like wind being pulled into a vacuum. Then, quiet. She stood in shards of her own fear, heart pounding like a war drum. Behind her, something tapped the window, not with fingers, but with nails. She turned slowly. Outside, the forest had crept closer. What was once distant tree line was now pressed against the glass, bark and branches brushing the pane like skeletal hands. There was no more yard, no more sidewalk, no more Elmridge Road. Only black trees and fog. Then a face, pressed to the window. Not human. Eyes like candle flames, mouth too wide. It didn't move. It didn't blink. It just watched. And then, with a sound like bending metal, the window latch unlocked itself. The latch clicked. The window eased open with a groan, letting in a burst of cold, damp air that smelled like earth and rot. Mara stumbled backward, the flashlight beam jittering across the walls. The face was gone, but the trees remained, unmoving, unnatural, like props in a stage play waiting for their cue. She grabbed the dresser and shoved it against the window with a loud scrape. The legs caught on the wood floor, but it held. Barely. Then, silence. She collapsed onto the bed, every muscle shaking. Whatever this was, it wasn't just haunting her. It knew her. It spoke her name. It whispered her past. It remembered things she didn't. She tried to recall her childhood home, her first school, her parents' faces. Nothing came. The house was taking pieces of her, thought by thought. She opened the nightstand again, searching for something that proved she was real. A letter, a photo, anything. There was only a key. Old, iron, cold, tied to it, a faded tag. For when the memories turn against you. She didn't understand, but her hand closed around it anyway. The hallway creaked again. Footsteps, slow, bare, soft. But they didn't echo like before. They absorbed sound. Something walked toward her door with silence as its shadow. Then, 3 taps, not on the door, but on the ceiling, directly above her bed. She aimed the flashlight upward. Nothing, but she could feel it. Something waiting just beyond the drywall, listening, learning her breath. Then, a voice from the hallway. Hoarse, male, not quite human. You let it in. Mara jumped up. She yanked open the bedroom door, key in hand. The hallway was no longer a hallway. It was a corridor of doors, endless, identical. And behind each one, breathing, the corridor stretched on, far beyond what the house should contain. Mara took a step forward. Each door was identical. Plain wood, brass handles, a small black number etched into the surface. But there was no pattern. 13, 27, 4, 91. 13 again. And from behind each door, the breathing, software varied. Familiar. Like versions of herself in every room, asleep or waiting, or trapped. She tightened her grip on the iron key. It felt heavier now, warmer. Was it guiding her? She moved forward. Slowly. The door on the left trembled slightly, just a pulse, like something inside was dreaming. Then she passed a door that was cold. Not just cold, hollow. She stopped. This one had no number, just a mark. A symbol she didn't recognize. A circle, split through the middle with a jagged line. She reached for the handle, and the key in her hand vibrated. The door didn't open. Instead, it whispered, Mara. Her name again. This time her own voice. The sound made her knees weaken. Then the light changed. The corridor flickered. And for just a moment, she saw everything behind the doors. Not walls, not rooms. Memories. Some hers, some not. A burning tree. A crying child in an empty school. A man on the floor holding a phone with no cord. A mirror in a basement that never reflected anything alive. Then, the hallway snapped back to normal. Doors, wood, silence. Except one door, the one ahead. It was open. Light spilled from inside, soft, golden, flickering like candlelight. And at its threshold, her shadow ended. The light didn't touch her. She stepped forward, and the breathing stopped. She stepped through the open door. The room was small, circular, stone walls slick with condensation. The floor was covered in wet leaves and broken glass. Dozens of candles floated mid-air. No strings, no holders, just suspended in stillness. In the center stood a chair, old, wooden, facing away from her. And seated in it, a figure. Mara didn't speak, didn't breathe. The air was different here, not stale or musty. It smelled like the end of something. She took one step closer. The leaves didn't rustle, the glass didn't crunch. Another step. The figure in the chair shifted slightly, just enough to show a profile. It was her. Older, gaunt, eyes black with absence. The figure spoke without turning. "You kept the key." Mara froze. The voice was hers, but wrong. Hollow, like an echo stretched across time. "You were supposed to forget. That was the deal." Mara's mouth opened, but no sound came. The woman in the chair, the other Mara, continued. "You remember the door, the house, the phone. That's how it found you." A pause, then. "It always finds the ones who try to undo the forgetting." The candles flickered violently. Wind whipped through the room, but nothing moved. Not the chair, not the leaves. Only Mara. She stumbled back, but the door she came through was gone. Stone wall. No seam. The figure in the chair rose slowly, still not facing her. "You can leave," it said, "but only if you choose to forget again. This time, completely." Mara clutched the key. It felt cold again, heavy with meaning, and from somewhere deep beneath the room, a heartbeat. Not hers, not human. Something was waking up. The heartbeat grew louder, not a thump, but a throb, wet, pulsing, ancient. It came from beneath the floor, behind the walls, inside her chest. It didn't beat with life, it beat with memory. The other Mara turned now, slowly, deliberately. Her face was wrong, not just aged, distorted. Her features were blurred, as if water had washed her identity away, leaving only a suggestion of what she'd been. Her eyes were empty sockets, but they bled light. She reached out a hand, pale, bony, shaking. "The key," she whispered. "Give it back. Forget. Close the door." Mara gripped it tighter. The wind howled, though there were no windows. The candles vanished, one by one, as if snuffed out by invisible hands. Then the ground beneath her shifted. Stone cracked. And from the floor, hands. Dozens of them. Pale, thin, childlike. Reaching up through the stone. Grasping. Mara backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The chair, the leaves, the light, all gone. Only blackness now, and the other Mara, still holding out her hand. "Choose," she said. or it chooses for you. The key vibrated. It pulled toward the outstretched hand like a magnet of memory. Then something inside her broke. Not a bone, not a thought, a barrier. And she remembered everything. The door she'd locked as a child, the voice behind it, the day the others disappeared, the reason the phone kept ringing, and why she had come back. Tears welled in her eyes. She stepped forward and placed the key into the other Mara's palm. The figure smiled, a broken, grateful thing. The hands receded into the stone, the floor sealed, the candles reignited, and Mara was alone again. Except she wasn't Mara anymore. Not this version. She was the one in the chair now, waiting for the next knock, for the next memory that refused to stay buried. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was loaded, coiled, expectant. Mara, or whatever remained of her, sat in the chair now. But the room had changed again. The walls were no longer stone, but lined with shelves. Each shelf stacked with items, keys, photographs, cracked phones, burnt coffee labels, mirrors too dark to reflect. Every object pulsed softly, as if breathing. This was not a memory. It was a vault. She was its keeper. Somewhere above, beyond walls and time, the house still stood. But it was empty now. Outside, Elmridge Road no longer existed. It had been swallowed. The trees stretched into infinity. The sky was a smear of ash and silence. And yet, deep in the center of it all, the phone rang again. Not in the house, in the vault. Mara rose. Slowly, she moved between the shelves until she found it. An old rotary phone, identical to the one from before. But this time it was ringing for someone else. She picked it up, a breath on the other end, unfamiliar. Young. Then a voice. "Hello? Is someone there? I just moved into this old place on Elmridge Road and..." Mara closed her eyes. The house had a new tenant. The cycle had begun again. But something was different this time. She looked down. The key was still in her hand. And it was no longer cold. It glowed, dimly but pulsing, like a second heartbeat. For the first time in what felt like centuries, she smiled. Because now she remembered something else. A choice, not just for her, but for whoever came next. Above the vault, somewhere beyond memory and stone, the forest shifted. A new door appeared, weathered, untouched, waiting. And behind it, someone else stood. A man this time. He held a moving box in one hand, a coffee mug in the other. His car was still running. The porch light flickered. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. He paused at the threshold, looked up at the house. Windows blank, paint chipped, mail slot rusted shut. Yet something pulled him forward. Inside, the layout felt wrong, like the hallway bent in a direction it shouldn't. Like the second floor had too many doors. He set the box down, listened. Nothing. Then, the phone rang. Upstairs. Curious, he climbed. Each step made no sound. The air felt thinner, like breathing through old pages. At the top of the stairs, the hallway stretched longer than before. Too long. The ringing continued, insistent, faintly mechanical. At the end of the hall, a study door, closed. He reached for the handle. Behind the door, someone whispered, "Don't go into the study." He froze. "Hello?" he asked, pressing his ear to the wood. Silence. Then 3 soft knocks from the other side. His fingers brushed the handle. And far below, in the vault, Mara watched through a mirror of fog and memory. She raised the key, not to stop him, but to offer him the same choice, to remember or to forget. The mirror dimmed. The vault went still, and above on Elmridge Road the door creaked open once more.
More stories like this are waiting. Subscribe to Dark Echo, and don't forget to leave a light on. New nightmares arrive every week, and some never leave.